Gerald, tell me about yourself. Where were you born and where did you spend your childhood?
Well, I was born in Bolton in Lancashire, which was a smoky cotton town, but I was fortunately on the outside edge of this, on the moors.
You would always almost go back to first principles, even though a lot of the time you're persuaded that there are all these different uses and that the countryside has to manage all these different uses and we have to compromise and all that kind of thing. He would always, go back to the first principle. Is this going to affect the natural beauty of the landscape in some way? And how can we improve it? And how can we make sure it doesn't affect the natural beauty of the landscape? We always used to have to take a lot of research, and he had he was very visual as well. So he liked to take a lot of photographs. We had old glass slides going back decades, stored in wooden boxes in the shed. But he liked to produce photographs to show how things would change. I remember him. He produced a photograph showing how a motorway over a viaduct might look going over the National Park Authority if it had to be built at level, and what that might look like and the damage that might cause.
He was already a member of the planning committee, I think, when I came. So fairly soon on, as senior planning control officer, it was my job to cope with all the planning applications. In those days we had anything up to 1,000 cases a year, and we had a committee to report back to. Almost all the applications went back to the committee of the authority, and before very long, Colonel H, as we called him, was the chairman of the committee. Planning control isn't a campaign, generally it's a control system, it's reactionary. But of course for Colonel H it was a campaign to make sure as little harm was done to the park by the other interests as possible, and he was very good at it. He said everything should be in natural stone, and we said, I don't think we can do that. Firstly, it's too expensive. Secondly, it doesn't seem to get reflected in the sale price. So I said, I think we have to stick with 2 or 3 artificial stone products. He was really unhappy with that, and eventually he was right. But he didn't get his way until after he'd moved on. Now even social housing is almost always built in natural stone.
The Sheffield Green Belt we particularly wanted to settle, and there was one big battle over at Worlow, the Worlow Bridge, where a builder wanted to build 90 houses on 87 acres of first-class countryside. And so a great deputation went down to see the City Council, and we had a great friend on the City Council who was chairman of the Town Planning Committee, Alderman Fred Marshall. And they agreed there and then to refuse this application and to pay the compensation, which was £25,000, which in those days was a huge sum of money. And so we followed that one up by saying, please may we have a green belt, and explain what a green belt was all about. And they said, yes, if you'll go and survey it for us. So Ethel and I went out and surveyed it.
They talked and thought of nothing other than how to further their work, how they could improve things, for instance, by getting a green belt for Sheffield and a Peak District National Park. I mean, these were massive objectives, but this didn't stand in the way. They were going to do it, and eventually they did together.